Is urging state senators not to approve the OTB restructuring bill when they return to Albany next Tuesday. State Conservative Party Chairman Mike Long says the organization is insolvent and should not be bailed out time and time again. He's joining us from New York City tonight to talk more about this issue. Chairman, how are you?
Hi, good to be with you, Liz.
So, okay, you are saying not to bail out OTB. That's going to cost hundreds of jobs, and I'm surprised a little bit to hear you say that, although I suspect this has more to do with fiscal issues than anything else.
Well, look, my initial concern is no one likes to see anybody lose their job. But when the state took OTB over in 2008, OTB was insolvent then, it's insolvent now, it's not turning over a profit, it's not making money, it's costing the taxpayers money in taxes. And here we have taxpayers in bad economic times subsidizing a gambling operation that is losing money. I think the time has come, and you know, it'd be, if it was a true restructuring, I'm not opposed to having some form of off-track betting, but the system we have now does not work, isn't working, and it would be irresponsible on the part of the Senate and the Assembly, and the Assembly already voted for it, I believe. It's irresponsible to, at this time in our history, in the state's economic climate, to continue to promote a loss of revenue that the taxpayers are going to watch their money go down the drain.
Okay, so you sent this memo indicating how you feel to all of the state senators. Have you heard any response back from them? Because the Democrats can't pass it without the Republicans.
No, I have. I called. I can tell you this. I called Senator Skelos to let him know the memo was coming, and I didn't want him to be caught off guard.
Right. And
asked them to please make sure that all his members were aware of the fact where the Conservative Party stands. And he said he had already received the memo at the time, and he thanked me. He didn't give me an indication what they were going to do or what they were, how they were going to vote. But I certainly told him we felt very strongly. And I believe, I didn't say this to him, but I believe this is the real first test for all the senators, both Democrat and Republican alike, that are we going to deal with the present economic crisis that we're faced with next year, or are we going to just keep on trying to kick the can down the road until there's nobody in this state left to pay the bills?
Oh, that's an interesting choice of words for you, Chairman, because kick the can down the road is a phrase that we hear a lot from Governor-elect Andrew Cuomo.
Well, look, and I think Andrew's got a very big job ahead of him. And one of the things, if in fact they did not bail out, and that's what this is, if the Senate refuses to bail out OTB, it would be the first step in a long way of showing that the legislature has the courage to do the right thing and restructure our present form of government here in the state of New York so we can get back to paying off our debts without raising taxes. Why should people be paying taxes for a failed gambling operation?
You know, once upon a time, actually, the Conservative Party had quite a bit of clout in the state Senate because the Republicans were in charge, and of course, your party was endorsing people, cross-endorsing people. New York's one of the few states that allows that. Now, your stock is rising quite a bit because you've actually managed to take, I believe, row C. Is that correct, on the ballot?
We're taking back row C while it hasn't been certified by the Board of Elections, but there's no doubt about it. We're taking that back. We won 8, for sure, 8 assembly seats, and there's another one. We're waiting for the final votes to come in, and it looks like we're going to take that. That would give us 9. That would give us a veto-proof assembly for the first time in many, many years. And it appears to me that we're going to help the Republicans win control of the state Senate with 4 new state Senate seats. So look, and I think that'd be very helpful to Governor-elect Andrew Cuomo. And if, in fact, some of the things that he's been saying about no new taxes and getting New York State's spending under control this would be a very first good step by having legislators, and I don't care if the Democrats or Republicans, saying, look, we're not going to do this anymore. We're sorry about the loss of jobs. We understand that's very painful to people, but we're also sorry about people paying taxes, higher taxes, to fund a failed gambling operation.
Helpful to Andrew Cuomo how? You mean helpful to Andrew Cuomo to have the Senate in Republican hands?
No, I think I think if in fact the Senate doesn't bail out OTB, it would be very helpful, a clear sign to the newly elected governor,
I see.
When he takes office, that there are people in the Senate willing to be serious about the future of the state of New York.
Do you think, though, that to have the Senate in Republican hands will be beneficial to him? Because there are some people that believe that the Senate Republicans are actually perhaps more in line with Governor-elect Cuomo's fiscal conservative message, not social ideas, mind you, but the fiscal part of cutting spending, state spending, and perhaps that would help pressure the Assembly Democrats and Sheldon Silver, specifically the Speaker.
Well, if the things that Andrew Cuomo has said on fiscal matters, if he believes them and intends to implement them, then I think he is in better shape with the Republicans being in control in the state Senate. I think it'll be very helpful both for Andrew Cuomo, more importantly to the state Senate, and the most importantly to the taxpayers of the state of New York.
Do you believe he thinks that? Because, you know, there are some Democrats that quietly grumble that maybe he could have been more aggressive. Eliot Spitzer, for example, was quite aggressive in trying to help the Democrats flip control of the chamber.
Well, I think, I believe that having the Republicans in the state Senate, if Andrew Cuomo means what he says during the campaign, is going to be very helpful to him and, more importantly, most importantly, to the taxpayers of the state of New York.
You know, here's an interesting thing, though. We saw a lot during the campaign, complaints from the Republican side that the Senate Democrats were corrupt, in particular in connection with the AEG scandal, the Racino down in Queens. So, but now we're getting reports that now former Republican Senator Vincent Leibel is going to be pleading guilty to corruption, federal corruption charges. I mean, doesn't that sort of put a pox on everybody's house?
Well, look, you know, breaking the law has no barriers. Republicans do it, Democrats do it. Yes, I guess even conservatives at times step over the line and make mistakes and break the law. Bottom line, the key word you said, Liz, was former senator. He's a former senator. He resigned already. He's not in the Senate. And let it be a warning to all elected officials and that might be one of the reasons why it would be helpful to have the elected officials not be full-time legislators, number one. It might be helpful for the legislators not only not to be full-time legislators, which they're really not. They're supposed to be part-time legislators. That's one of the reasons why term limits would probably play a very important role, because the longer elected officials stay in office, the more they get involved in being inside the bubble and not understanding what's happening outside in the real world.
Would you support a pay increase for them if it was coupled with a ban on outside work, like no moonlighting, but you can make more than $79,500?
No, I would support them working on a part-time basis, which is what they should do. I would not support an increase in pay. Of course, many a times it's just not necessary. All the hours and the days they spent last week is an example. They went up to Albany, nothing was accomplished. The taxpayers have to pay the bill for that. We don't need a full-time legislature. I can remember when I first got involved in the political process in this state, the system started right after the first of the year with the State of the State, and the legislators were home by April 1st. I think that's a good system. We should go back to that system, and we also ought to have term limits. We don't need pay increases with everyone being, when we're talking about laying off people from OTB, when we're talking about the high unemployment rate, we don't need to even be talking about raising legislators' pay, which not necessarily all the legislators that are there now, but the legislature have caused half the problems we're faced with in the state of New York.
Let me ask you in parting, Chairman, have you been in touch with State GOP Chairman Ed Cox at all since the election? There was a lot of consternation about him, his leadership. There's been some changes, or there might soon be some changes at the state party in terms of staffing. Have you two gone forward, buried the hatchet, and talking again?
Well, when you said bury the hatchet, that would mean that both of us had axes in our hand.
Well, there was a moment. There was a moment there during the election.
Well, there was
cycle.
a lot of moments.
Right.
There were a lot of moments. But I saw Chairman Cox after the election at the Monday night meeting that's held down in the city of New York. We really haven't had any conversation or any reason to. And as far as restaffing and reorganizing the Republican Party, that's really none of my business. That's a Republican thing that Republican leaders have to deal with themselves. And I intend to just keep moving forward. I think we had the Conservative Party had a good impact on the state this year. Not only for selfish, we won Row C back, but we assisted in the election of a lot of new congressmen, new assemblymen, and new state senators, and I feel very proud about that.
Well, Chairman, congratulations then on your performance in the general elections. I want to thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Good to be with you.
Thanks, Mike. I really